Hello everyone, welcome to the Automated Script, the easiest and finest way to start your automation testing. To stay up to date with my latest videos and cool automation tips, please make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel. I am Mesh and I am Senior Test Automation Architect with 14 plus years of experience in software test automation. I worked in R&D department for 5 years on multiple technologies and languages. I got approved one patent and other in queue. In my current role, I explore new technologies and tools in the market. I introduce them to our test processes and bring value to the organization. Also, providing technical architecture, defining strategic direction for testing automation practices is my another role. Before I go further, let me explain you how we need to explain our framework in interview. One thing is very important. If we can see in test automation industry, 90% of industry, they are following page object model framework, form framework with the page factory based implementation. When we give any answer in the interview, the one and only important thing we need to keep in mind is it should be a brief and to the point, so that interviewer should not lose interest from our answer. So whenever we need to give answer about framework, we can divide framework in terms of different components which we are using to build a structure which we called a framework, and also which we use in our company or industry. Always we need to show or draw the framework architecture in front of interviewer, and then we need to explain each and every component in detail. Believe me, if you are able to explain this framework architecture, then you have better chance to crack your interview. So let's see, we can go further. If you can see on my screen, this is the architecture of our automation framework. Important component of our architecture should be always your core engine. If you can see here, this is a core engine. Then our test data. Then projects. If you can see the multiple projects, 1, 2, 3, 4, multiple projects can use the same core architecture, that is a core engine. So this core engine will not change for one, core engine will not change for project 2, core engine will not change for project 3. It should be always constant for all other projects. Your test data may be changed because you need to manage that in a different area like XLSx, JSON, then mainframe, database, XML properties, all those are your data sources. And your core engine should support either the cloud hosted application, also it should support your on-premise hosted application. So your core engine should be very powerful, which can support on the multiple hosted application. That is nothing but your application under test. Also, if you can see in this diagram, we do have the code repository. Currently, I mentioned on the GitHub, there are a different code repository which you can mention. Then we have the CI/CD, that is continuous integration, continuous deployment. That is your Jenkins. I mentioned Jenkins, you can use any other thing. And finally, after execution, you will get your HTML report. So this is whole the architecture. I'll explain this in detail now. So now what is test architecture? So test architecture is the discipline of looking at a stream of delivery and working out what, how, and when to test to achieve the best possible outcome. It produces a framework of test activities that can then be scoped, prepared, and executed. So based on your architecture, your framework is prepared always. The architecture may be a one-time architecture supporting, which is a fixed term program, or a perpetual architecture. So that is not an ongoing product development. For example, one time if you can design this core engine, you are not going to change that regularly. Okay, so again, it is the art of software automation development, extends far beyond a mere coding of functional specification for your computer program. Modern software automation development conforms to a life cycle. So I already defined that life cycle in my previous video, which begins with the functional specification and leading into the formulation of suitable architecture. Also, the life cycle continues with the physical coding of the application and includes iterative testing and modification cycles to ensure the integrity of the code. Finally, the execution of completed code can be analyzed and facilitate the further revision of the code, improve the performance of this code using your report, or if any changes into your framework like your common components, your common functions and all. Importantly, due to the differences in testing approach and the goal, each test phase can include a separate automation design and implementation, thus making reusability among the phases very difficult, if not impossible. Even within the same phase of the testing, reusability is not always achievable. So due to the complexity of your test or your architecture. In this regard, if multiple tests use the same operational procedure, in our case, so my project holds test file, config file, logger file and all other. If they are using a common accessibility, if you can see, it is using the same core engine, then that leads to the near parallel automation solution, and that do not enable testers to contribute to and share from the common pool. So as such, the processes of test automation can be redundant and inefficient. So now pictures of this, this architecture addresses deficiency of the art in the respect of software test automation, and it provides a novel and a non-obvious method, system and apparatus for a reusable software testing framework. So based on this architecture, we are going to use a reusable automation framework, and it can include the general functions layer, a task layer, the scenarios layer and the test cases layer. So the general function layer can include a general functions library, including administrative framework function or non-application related functions. When we can say auxiliary functions disposed within the general functions layer include the input-output functions, database query functions like in the business layer. The task layer can include the task library, including granular single-purposed application related functions, each function conforming to the uniform base interface to ensure reusability like in your common components. And the auxiliary tasks disposed with the task layer include application logon and logoff function, and again application object creation, modification and deletion functions. So this is what, when we think about your framework architecture, these are the things that we always thought of. Now let's move to the core engine now. So I'll explain more in detail about the core engine. So core engine provides you the whole capability of communicating to any device, example of your mobile, tablet, IoT, any device. Every layer of core engine has its own core feature. So if you can see, there are 6 layers: business layer, common functions, common component, then UI handler, exception handler and form structure. So it is shared and it is nothing but heart of your architecture always, which should support to any type of automation testing like your API automation, web UI automation, mobile automation, performance, load test, or desktop or any other IoT test automation. So very important, core engine is very important. Now when we jump to the business layer, we'll go one by one. It has all the capability to take test data from either JSON, XML properties, or DB or XLS. So all those test data, all its implementation available within your business layer. Then your common function, while doing automation using Selenium, there are certain repetitive tasks that we need to perform in order to handle page element. So the aim of this invention is to highlight some common operations that we need to handle every now and then. Some operations are open URL in a different browsers, then do mouse overs, then do some web text box operations, some other operations, some handling drop down or checkbox or radio button operations, all comes under your common functions. When we talk about component function, this is nothing but a startup script or initializer for your framework. We define a base class, the base class, and which extends to your multiple test cases. Those are available within your projects. Okay, it provides you a unique driver, reporter, and logger object to work throughout your whole session until execution stops. So very important, common component is work together with your every test case till your test case ends. Then comes your UI handlers. So UI handlers provide you the facility to communicate different set of UI like your Internet Explorer, Mozilla, Firefox, Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Safari. It is a common component which is reusable for any area of testing within this solution. Then your exception handlers. So common exception handler, which is the use throughout all type of testing within the solution. Provide you common exception handler which will cover all the type of web, desktop, API, performance, mobile or IoT devices exception. So one example is your pop-up handling. So all those are maintained within this exception handler. Then your form structure. So already I have explained a different design pattern in my previous video. You can walk through with the form structure, but still I'll tell you what exactly the form structure. So about the form, it is a creating automated test cases can result in an unmaintainable project. One of the reason is that too many duplicated code is used. Duplicated code could be caused by duplicated functionality, and this will result in duplicated usage of locator. So that's the disadvantage of any normal frameworks. So in the form, there is a clean separation between test code, page specific code such as locators, actions, and verification. That is the use of your form structure. So this is how your core engine works, and which will never change for any type of projects, either web UI projects, admin, your API project, mobile project, or any other projects. Okay, now we jump to the test data management. So test data management, we are using a maintaining expected test data in a different data sources like your JSON, XML, then XLS, properties, database, then mainframe. Okay, and this will provide you a facility to reuse an existing component to maintain your expected data for validation. So you can do one thing for every new project, you can maintain its own test data management. Then comes your application under test. So very important, those are the applications where we can provide the facility to work on the cloud hosted application as well as on premise hosted application. As per the latest trend into recent product development, we know cloud host applications are most reliable and provide a flexibility. Keeping the future in consideration, we need to come up with the solution to automate cloud host application, and always we automate UI, API, mobile based, all the cloud API hosted applications. So your core engine should be capable to support either cloud hosted application, either it should support to on-premise hosted application. Then if you can see, this is the code repository, a GitHub. So this is a centralized repository which hold all source code based at a single location. Everyone can participate to modify and add their automated areas, the script to source, okay? And this will keep the code safe and maintainable so that anyone can maintain from anywhere. Then your Jenkins, which is nothing but your CI/CD. That means once your push comes to the GitHub or your code repository, it should automatically execute your Sanity or Smoke suite. And finally, once you execute, you can see here the report. So after execution, it will provide a user-friendly unique report for all type of testing area, which will mention summary of execution and detailed steps and the screenshot attached with it. Now, how to explain the framework steps in an interview? So if you can see on my screen, so there is a first step, that is you can draw your architecture first. Then you can explain the framework. Then you can explain your core engine. Then you can brief test data management. Then you can maintain always repository and the CI/CD pipeline within your project. And then you can maintain or mention the reporting, how we can do the reporting of your project. So let me show you what exactly I have explained in this slide. So I would show you, this is the automated script architecture which I have developed for this particular demo. Okay, so this is my project name, automated script architecture. Then if you can see, there is a core engine, the part. Then we do have a form structure. Then we do have the projects which we saw there. Then we do have our test data. We do have a configuration, library, and report. So let's go one by one. So I'll explain core engine first. In the core engine, we do have the layers. So first is your business layer. In the business layer, we do have all the implementation of your test data management, like DB reader, then Excel reader, JSON, property, XML reader. All the data sources, all its implementation are available within my business layer. Then comes to my common functions. In the common functions, I can see all the common web elements, like on the web page, if you wanted to do some operation, you should have some web elements like your button, checkbox, link, text box. So all its common functionality are implemented within the common functions. Then if I jump on my component functions, in the component function, I do have initializer, I do have a base class. So if you remember, I told you the base class extends, this base class is a parent to all my test classes. So this is a common to all the test classes, and initializer from where we can do some initialization of your test data management and all other area. Then there are the exception handlers. So exception handler, in the exception handler, we do have the exception manager class, which will manage the exception that comes on your API, mobile, web UI, desktop application, or any IoT devices application. All those exceptions are managed within this exception manager class. So there are different exception classes. I have created only one, but for IoT, there is IoT exception manager class in this way. Then we do have the UI handler. So in the UI handler, you can see there is a browser creator. In the browser creator, you can just mention which browser you need. Let's say you need Microsoft Edge, you need Chrome, you need Safari, you need any other devices, either Android, either iOS, any of the things. If you require, those are created from these things. Also from the UI handler, you do have your logger classes. So logger classes which help you to maintain the logs for your framework or your architecture. Also, it will help you to write any of the reporter. So if you want to write anything into your report, you can maintain from the logger. There is another class, report logger, which I missed to write down here. Then we do have the form structure, which we mentioned. So in the core engine, there is a form structure. So why form structure is recommended in industry? Because of the low maintenance and low debugging. So let's say in the form structure, I do have my separate page actions, I do have my separate page locator, I do have my separate page verifications. So page locator, where we do have a page factory implementation. I can add all my locator file within this page using the page factory. Same way, on those locators, whatever action I want to do, I can maintain this within this page action. Then any verification. So verification holds which says either it's true, either that action false. So this verification maintained within this page verification class. Now we jump to the projects. In the projects, let's say I am working currently on automated script project. So if I am working on automated script project, this is my test class. So if you can see, all four this file is having a same naming convention. Only the changes here: page action, page locator, page verification, and page test. So in the page object model, we follow this structure always. So it is very easy to debug your code. So if locator fails, you need to directly go to the login and find out the failures. So if you can see, there are multiple projects maintained within this project. So Google, Reddit, all other projects. But all these projects are using this my core architecture commonly. All these projects are using all this core architecture commonly. So that means even though if I can add here 100 projects, all those 100 projects are using this core engine facility, which is my core or heart of my this architecture. Same way I said, there is a configuration, there is a library, there is a report, and there is a test data. In report, we do have the graphical or HTML report maintained. In the library, like you do have Selenium library, Auto IT library, or any other like POM or any other library, whichever you maintain, those are under this library folder. In the configuration, you do have your configuration, the config file, that is project specific configuration, like if you wanted to maintain something. And in test data, you have the project specific test data, like you're in JSON format, XML format, XLS format, DB, or property, or mainframe, or any other data sources which you are compatible with. I hope this will help you to, answer the questions about the framework. Also, you understand how the framework or the architecture is built in and how we need to explain that in interview. So please leave your answer in the comment section below. And also there are the multiple topic I have mentioned in my screen, if you can see. So, and do let me know which topic you would like me to cover in my next video, like test automation framework interview questions and answers, your test data management in automation testing, or page factory based implementation in test automation. I'm sure this automation framework and its architecture will help you to kickstart automation within your current project. Also, it will help you to answer framework questions in interview. I would encourage you to please provide your comments, either it's positive or negative, so that it will help me in making my next video more relevant and useful for you. Thank you for watching this video, and please make sure you can subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thank you.